and then we go back to water. Since we're like 80 some percent water. Okay. So you're taking some kind of liquid, black or brown liquid that's supposedly humic acid or fulvic acid, and it's got a pH of 10. It's really a salt. It's really the salts of the humic acids. What are you doing? You know, uh, what about that water that they make it with? Well, what's the source of that water?
Right.
85% water. Well, if you're getting the water out of municipal water source, out of the tap somewhere in some city, or even from a well in an agricultural area, you are getting forever chemicals like PCBs. You are getting even hormones. You're getting gender bending chemistry. You're getting pesticides. You're getting birth control compounds, antibiotics, and a whole range of fungicides and industrial chemicals. So don't take the water for granted.
Correct.
And
And
they
most
make
of the
the
products,
products that are mostly water. But where's that water come from? And where does our water come from? Our water comes from the Gulf of Alaska in winter rains. I would not use groundwater or tap water because I want to use the purest possible water, and that's what we use. It comes sweeping down from the Gulf of Alaska every winter, and we collect it and we purify it, and it's legally considered potable water system, and we have some of the cleanest and best water uh, there is from that rainwater system. So you must consider that. What is the
right.
source of the water they're using to make the products, and why do plant growers prefer our product? Because they're products that they're growing, especially some of the herbal products, have to be tested. They have to be tested. And if we introduce something in the water, and we know that the tap water, municipal water, contains all these chemicals, that we're going to be introducing it into the plant or the animal or the human.
Right.
And that's just a fact of life. You're hearing it more every day. Gender bending, forever chemicals, microplastics, you name it. Okay. So these products are 90 or more percent water. Okay. What's in that water? At least with our products, it is water. There's nothing in it other than what, we use it to do our fermentation and extract our fulvic acid. And we leave the heavy metals behind, and we don't start with water that's contaminated. And I think people just take that for granted. Plus, we use techniques to energize or activate that water,
Right.
using vortex energy and other techniques that have been well established, but are not mainstream.
Yeah, generally speaking, other products that are liquid products are doing RO. They specifically talk about an RO process, reverse osmosis, or a multi-stage filtration system for the companies that do describe their process. But the water that comes off the glacial melt from Alaska has additional energy because it's energized by the sun. So it's a particularly good water. In fact, you said that, Dr. Faust, that there are companies in Oregon that bottle this glacial melt water and sell it at a premium in Oregon.
That's correct. What's called Oregon Rain.
Right.
It's sold in fancy bottles in expensive hotels and restaurants.
Right.
So yeah. So it also part of it. I'm not a physicist, but I've talked to some distinguished scientists that tried to explain this to me. It's the transition of water, the form of water, from a frozen to a vapor to a liquid. And somehow in that process of ice melting, there's an activation, makes water wetter, is the only thing I can explain it. So there's something happening there that's important.
Yeah, it technically the sun's energy is translated into the chemical bonds, the hydrogen oxygen bonds in water, and it makes a permanent the water will hold that energy. So glacial melt water is different from water that's been processed through RO or through multi-stages of filtration.
Yeah, it's dead water.
Right, exactly.
It's dead water. If it hits the ground, it loses its charge.
Right.
It's dead water. Water we use has never hit the ground.
Okay.
And it's so important. And I learned this from some very distinguished scientists over the years. And it goes back to biodynamic theory and just common sense. You know, I mean, for centuries we drank groundwater out of streams, and it had a tea color. It had a yellow tea color. Well, that's the fulvic acid coming down the mountain in the water. So people were strong and healthy, and they've been on this planet in our form for over 80,000 years, or maybe far longer. So now we have a new world, and we're drinking groundwater that's contaminated,
Right.
and river water that literally smells.
Right.
So yeah, and no, so that's far more important than we realize. And I mean, I'm kind of pessimistic to what the outcome of all this is going to be, because you just look at history and you can tell what the outcome's going to be.
Right.
We've sped up the process.
Well,
But
I think that's why it's important for us to continue to talk about this messaging, because throughout all of history, what has always sustained and supported the life is the organic matter in the soil.